Go ahead. Grand Rising, everyone. It's Ron. Uh, Sunday, the 28th of December, a little after 11 a.m. Let's get started and see if we have any questions. We had an interesting discussion yesterday. We talked a little bit about Black nationalism. We talked about Kwanzaa. That really kind of opened the conversation and getting a better understanding of that. And it led us to talking about Pan-African movement and the Panthers and some of the history of some of the stuff that went on in the 60s. And someone asked a question about the seven principles of Kwanzaa. So that's, you know, just the subject. I didn't go into details of what we talked about yesterday. But any questions about that before we move forward? Okay. Uh, any questions about anything else that may have gotten your attention?
Ron, this is Valerie. I have a question.
Hey, Valerie, how are you this morning?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. The words that are written in the red in the Bible, we say those were the words of Jesus. Now we know that Jesus is not a man. He is the name Jesus is a concept.
Yes.
Okay. Can is it safe to say that the words that are written in red are from our higher consciousness? Can you say or no?
Very much so.
Okay.
I need some help with this, though. You guys help me out. But yeah, I think we look at the words in red or the words of deliverance, and if we see ourselves or we are Elohim, whether we see ourselves as that or not, if we come to grips with that, we will see that we are one in understanding those and seeing the wisdom in them. So yeah, I think that is, if, for lack of a better way of putting it, our higher selves or our higher consciousness, our higher place of awareness.
Um, yeah, now back it up a little bit.
Okay.
I agree with what you said, but I think that we also should understand that the words in red or the words in black, for that matter, they are not the words that were written originally. All of it, as we've said so many times, has been manipulated.
Hmm.
However, Run, for lack of a better way of saying this, Run was, it is an example, or the words are our higher self or higher understanding, our elevated understanding. But they have to be translated, even from the English,
Okay.
because when, when Ron said that they are words of deliverance, then that is translated from the English, because we are taught that these are the words of Jesus, the guy who walking around, who will be crucified after a while. When, but they are words of deliverance. Um, but we have to see it, get a clearer picture of the concept of it, and we don't get that until we translate it from the English uh, to the spiritual. Makes sense.
Yes. Val?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you for the question.
You're
Anyone else?
welcome.
Did anyone else have a question, comment? Okay. Someone mentioned yesterday, I wrote this down as we were ending the seven principles of Kwanzaa, that was there anything in particular that someone had a question about with that, or did you just want to talk about them in general?
I think,
Hi, Ron. It's Janice. I think that was me yesterday.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I was just thinking that it could be worth revisiting them
Okay.
from a spiritual perspective. We talked about the fact that they were originally sort of culturally focused, but those principles came out of us and out of Africa. Um,
Yes.
and I think revisiting them in this way could be really valuable. So, kind of what I was thinking about, just kind of going over what they meant and um, looking at them, I guess, again for the first time.
I agree with you. I think that would show us some value. So,
I I was thinking about the principles last night, and when you said, Ron, you would like to have compared them to Mayat. These principles are a guiding force uh, akin to Mayat for the purpose of bringing unity to Africans who live in America in particular. Of course, Mayat is international,
yeah.
but these are principles that Mulana Rankaranga wrote for us in particular. Of course, they are applicable to any of us in the diaspora or on the continent, but they were primarily written for us.
I like that. Unity to the Africans unity to the Cabelonians in America. So I like that. Uh, what do you think, Pastor? You want to open them up? You want to start? And
But
look,
before,
I had mentioned to Pastor when we were talking about it yesterday, I was thinking about the seven principles of Mayotte, and I wanted to do a comparison, and I got kind of busy last night, didn't get a chance to do that. But guys, feel free in the discussion to add anything you desire.
I think, Ron, that is worth something is worth noticing, and that is all of the major movements, from Pan Africanism to everything else, but Pan Africanism in particular. Even though Marcus Garvey was from um, the Caribbean, he started the movement in this country.
Yeah,
Um, C.L.R. James was from Trinidad. He started a movement and perpetuated Pan Africanism in this country. Congress of African People organized in this country. So, what am I saying? I am saying when we say that we are the tip of the spear when it comes to the liberation of the people of a Cabelonian descent, we are the tip of the spear. Every major movement regarding Pan Africanism, nationalism for African people, had its genesis in this country, of course, with the exception of something like the ANC in South Africa um, that Nelson Mandela led. That's different. But I'm talking about in general. Why did they come to this country to do it? They were drawn here. And what drew them here? They were drawn here because our ancestors guided them to this space. And having been guided to this space, they were shown that this landmass called America is the tip of the spear for everything that's ruthless, that has been directed toward us. And if the descendants of Kabbalah are going to experience deliverance, it has to start in the depths of hell in order for it to bring deliverance to everyone else around the world who are of a Kabbalonian descent. Why? Because if the movement had been in Britain or in France, America wouldn't have cared. It had to be dealt with in the deepest depths of hell in order for it to be uprooted once and for all. And here we are. All of the movements were leading to this point where we are now, even though we didn't know it then. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any questions about that or comments? So
I have a comment, Real. You can go ahead. What's just number one? I want to go.
I said a short comment that these movements, I could be wrong, but it doesn't sound like they're tainted by religion. That was it. You can go ahead, Charles.
Charles, may I respond to Janice before you raise your question?
Yes, sir. Because I was going to tell you to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Charles. Sierra Law James was a Catholic, but he did not allow Catholicism to get in his way. Marcus Garvey was also a Christian, but he did not allow it to get in his way. None of them allowed. The only ones who allowed religion to get in their way were people who were trying to be like the oppressors. Those who were Pan-Africanist nationalists did not allow that to happen. The yoke of religion, the yoke of Christianity was thrown off in order for them to see clearly. As a matter of fact, John Henry Clark was a Christian growing up, but then when he studied history, he had to also study religion itself. And he had no qualms talking about the way Christianity maintained our enslavement, and Islam was our detractor. Islam was no different than Christianity. So he taught that Islam was just as dangerous to us as Christianity. The only difference is that it came from Arabs who were actually Europeans and Asians. So when we look at the religion, we see that Roy Wilkins of the NAACP, W.B. Du Bois, we see that crew, of course, King, that crew, they were Christians and they maintained their Christianity. And as a result of that, they were more easily, I don't want to use the word manipulated because that's too strong a word. They were lulled. They were lulled to sleep. They were rocked to sleep by virtue of the signing of the Civil Rights Bill and the Voter Rights Bill. They were lulled to sleep to believe that the passage of these bills would indeed bring equality to us, and their equality was about being like the oppressor, having the same opportunities as white people had, as it was put then. But the Pan-Africanists never wanted that. The Pan-Africanists always fought to understand their African ancestry and wanted us to get back to that, as is implicated in the Nguzo Saba, as well as Imam Baraka forming the Congress of African People. That's why I say that the nationalists were calling ourselves Africans long before the 80s, when Jesse supposedly coined the word African Americans. So Christianity had no stronghold in Pan-Africanism at all. I hope that answers your question, Janice.
Yep, it sure does. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles, well, first of all, let me see if anyone else have any questions or comments about that. Charles?
I don't know this is a good answer or a good question, but I want to have an understanding of it.
It's a good question
Like I told you today when I said that my brother was talking to me and he was going through some stuff, and I was trying to ease his mind, but when he went crying, it broke me down. And I was telling him, man, you don't want to go to hell. I mean, I didn't know no better being at that time. But he looked at me and told me, he said, I'm in hell right now. So the question I'm getting ready to ask is America, is the hell that we going through?
Yes, sir. America is hell for the whole earth, but for us in particular, because we happen to be living in close proximity to the gates of hell. Yes. As we've said 1,000 times, America is the vanguard for racism, for imperialism, for colonialism. America is the vanguard for anything that happens to us as a people. Not to say that Britain and France and the other, the Western and Eastern European nations are not just as racist, but America is the leader of all of those European countries. And if America does not support the Europeans, look at how difficult it is for them to get anything done. Right now, they're walking on thin ice because the European nations want to help the Ukraine, but America says no. So they have a struggle with that. Now, if that is going on between them, that simply means that all of the facade of being civilized is being removed because they are fighting each other again, like they have been doing since their existence. But they fought us as a unit and are still doing so. However, I am very grateful to the Creator for having allowed us to be where we are now, because it is only by the strength of our ancestors that we have been able to not only survive but to thrive as well and have opportunity to see the true nature, not only the true nature of who we are, but also to see the true essence of America itself and how evil it is. I hope that helps, Charles.
It did. It helped a whole lot.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments before we look at the Nguza Saba?
Hi, good morning. I just have a quick comment to Charles. Because I'm sitting here thinking, and I've always said, there must have been some greater plan that the Creator had for us to survive the hell we've been through. So, so my comment is just, even though it is hell, the Creator had a greater plan for us.
Yes.
So how else are we so resilient? How else do we thrive in hell?
You know what, Audrey?
Anyway, I just wanted to add that.
Only God could thrive in hell. That's the only way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question. Grand Rising, everybody. Honor to the ancestors. So are we're the gods who are delivering people from hell?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have
You
to.
want to elaborate?
I am.
Thank you.
We have to. Thank you. We have to deliver ourselves. The Creator allowed us to be shackled. If you look at it on the surface, it appears as though we were naive, and our naivete is the reason for us being conquered. But that's not so. The Creator allowed this to happen to us for us to recognize the full essence of who we are in this earth. We, for the most part, were seeing ourselves as humans. We were not really in tune with our total essence. And that is the reason our kindness was taken for weakness. So now, as we travel the journey of spiritual awareness, we have been shown who we are. The ancestors raised a mirror before us, and we were able to see who we are spiritually. And having been shown that, we became more confident in our abilities simply because we were shown that all humans were created from the womb of the a Babylonian female. And in understanding that, um, when we are when we get not when we get when we see the manifestation of harmony, it is then that the mindset of the barbaric mindset of the European has been overcome, and the gods who were brought into this earth to rule, and I don't mean that in terms of the way the world is being ruled now. It is then that mankind will be able to serve its purpose in the earth because it will be protected by the spiritual essence, the spiritual presence of the gods who were brought into this earth for that express purpose. Does that help you, Evelyn?
Yes, sir. And I have another question. Are we also the ones to, and I've heard this scripture before, pull people out of the fire? Is that the same thing as us getting them out of? Yeah, I'll leave it right there. That's my question.
The scriptures have been mistranslated. We have been misled when the scriptures talks about fire. Fire is not hell. Fire is a form of purification. We have lived in the fire in this country and still are living in the furnace to this day. And our understandings of who we are, the more of us recognize the clarity of who we are, it is then that we will understand that it is the fire that purified our minds so that we no longer were being guided by a mindset that is foreign to us, and that is the European mindset. What we are doing right now is purifying our mind so that we can function in the manner that we were brought into this earth to function. So that's just this idea of fire is not to destroy us. I hope that helps, Evelyn.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I know you guys are anxious to get to the Nguzo Saba, so am I. We'll get there. Any other questions or comments?
I have one more question on it.
Is it?
Go ahead, Kathy. No, you can.
Gonna ask. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Charles. I was just going to ask, is it safe to assume that those who are creating the hell that they feel that they're creating for us do not even realize that they are creating and living in hell themselves? That
Yes.
they're creating it for themselves as well. They don't know they're living in hell.
You're right. What happened is that the ones who has created it from the beginning are still maintaining it. And the ones who have been convinced that if you white, you're right. If you white, you have privilege. Those are the ones right now who are beginning to experience, well, not experience, they've always experienced it. They're beginning to be true to themselves and recognizing that they are in hell. When we say that, white people have to feel the pain. They have to open their eyes and see that they are in hell also. The difference is that they've always been in hell, they just didn't know it. But we've always known this was hell for us. We talked about economics to a certain degree yesterday. And in doing so, one of the things we talked about was people, those who live in poverty, especially white people living in poverty, never saw themselves as being what? In poverty as we as a people were. They were always taught that welfare is for black folks. And the people in the middle class, especially black folks, thought that they have arrived and they were walking hand in hand with white people who are middle class as well. However, the mindset that has governed this country has risen to the seat of the presidency in this country. And because of that mindset, we are seeing the suffering of white people the way that we have been suffering so long until it's become commonplace for us. So they are beginning to see that they too, yes, are in hell. White people, for the most part, would rather stay in hell than to admit that they are suffering as we are, and that we should come together to end the suffering. But they don't have a choice at this point to do anything other than see and experience the hell that has been put in place for all of us. Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Charles have a question?
Yes, I still have a question. My question is, all the African people that have made money over in this nation and got rich in this nation is being turned on them. And what I mean turned on them, the Caucasians don't like them to have their money. They let them use it, but they be using the money against them now, and some do and some don't. And I'm thinking that every black person that having money now, they after them, trying to pull them down and make them more susceptible of being poor again or not have anything. And that's how I see it now. They trying to get all the black people that have money, and they don't like it, and they taking it from them, and they being stupid, and it's getting done.
Charles, that did not start yesterday. That has always been the case. This country has allowed certain people who look like us to attain certain positions. Yet those positions that can make a difference are never put in their hands with the freedom to make the difference. So it's not about them deciding that they go take that money. They can do that when they get ready. It's about those who are wealthy are afraid of losing their money more so than anything else. And one of the major differences is there are people who have attained wealth who forgot where they came from. And there are people who pretend that they're wealthy, who look like us, who pretend they're wealthy and never knew where they came from. They've always thought that they were better than, or that they were other than us in terms of our plight. When I left Union to go to college in DC, my goal was always to come back, to help free other people from the menial labor and the black labor that was thrust upon us if we wanted to survive. So if you look at the federal government, you will see that the federal government has a black job. And that black job is housing and urban development. The Department of Housing is job is just a black job. And if you go through the history of the cabinets in this country, you will see that the overwhelming majority of those who were in a cabinet, had a cabinet position, were the director of housing and urban development, but was never able to truly make a positive difference when it came to being the director of housing and urban development. Because if you look at the neighborhoods in terms of housing, all of them remain the same or worse. So there is no such thing pretty much as we go take all the money. It just doesn't matter. They don't care how much money you perceive that you have. They don't care. What they deal with is the overall race or the overall communities of Africans in this country. Is if you can imagine a strainer, when you strain something, there are remnants of it that does not go through the hose. And that's pretty much how they have done us by allowing a handful of us to think that we made it until they get tired of us being in a spot and they eliminate the position. I hope that helps you, Charles.
It did.
All right, thank you. If there are no more questions, I would like to look at the principles of Kwanzaa. And the principles of Kwanzaa are called the Nguzo Saba, the 7 principles. And these principles became a major influence in the lives, especially of the nationalists, because Black people in this country, and I use that word purposely, Black people in this country didn't really want to engage in anything that resembled Africa. And the civil rights movement was primarily responsible for that. However, the civil rights movement would not have gotten to the place where it is if it had not been for Pan-Africanist nationalism. King once said that riots are the voice of the voiceless. And he understood that civil rights hope for doing anything was in the hands of the nationalists. If buildings didn't burn, they didn't listen to King. It's just that simple. The first principle is emotion, which means unity. And I'm sure that some of you Googled these principles. And if you would like to add to, raise questions about, that's fine. Matter of fact, I invite your input into this, because I do believe that when all of us, when we have input, we bring greater clarity. That's all. So, emotion to strive for and to maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. That seems to be self-explanatory, and it is to a degree. However, it is more in depth than that. If you don't have continuity in the family, you will not have it in the community. And if the community is not at peace, neither will the nation. And the key to it is the nation. When it says the nation, it is not talking about America. It's talking about the nation of Africans in this country. The nation will not be at peace if there's not unity, starting with the home. And when the nation is not at peace, the race is not unified. That's what it's talking about. So keep in mind that each one of these principles are directed towards us, the children of the sun. Are there any questions or comments or additions to that?
I do have a question, Pastor.
Sure.
I found the same symbols that you did, or definitions that you did, because there's several of them out there, and they all tie together and say some of the same thing. But if you look at the left of those, there are some symbols there. What are those symbols? Because
Where are you?
look familiar.
I don't see the symbols.
You don't see the symbols?
Hold your phone up. Let me see.
Okay, let me see if I can enlarge them.
Okay. If you know how to use your phone, you can.
Can you see those?
Yeah, I see them. I can't say that I do know what they are.
Now, the one by the last one, of course, is faith, and the word is Imani.
Yeah.
And it looks like the Ankh is that symbol. And a couple of the other ones look familiar, but I can't say that I know what they are. And I'm just wondering
No,
What,
I don't. However, if you would send me that link,
okay.
I would I'll look for them. The I want you to also notice the progression of the Nguza Saba in terms of how they build us up as a nation and how we maintain that. But again, I want to ask if there are any questions or comments in regards to Umoja. Kujichagulia, self-determination, to define and name ourselves as well as to create and speak for ourselves. Kujichagulia speaks to what we do 3 days a week. We have and still are defining ourselves. We have named ourselves, meaning that we know that we are Okabelonians. And when you know who you are more able to set the parameters for how you live your life, as opposed to allowing someone else to do that for you. It says we create and we speak for ourselves. We create, we bring things into existence that benefits us, that speaks to who we are, speaks to who we are. Ron, a moment ago, mentioned the Ankh. That is a symbol that speaks to who we are. Of course, there are many others, but that is one that I believe that we are most familiar with. It speaks to who we are. And when we embrace that, when we enforce unity, when we determine that we are not going to be who we were told we are going to be who we truly are. That's Kujichagulia. So unity comes before an understanding of who you are. Are we clear with that?
We are,
When you,
but there are a couple of things. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
There are a couple of things that come to mind. The first, with unity, reminds me of our discussions about unicity.
Uh-huh.
And I need to bring this in, but I don't know how else to get at what I'm thinking. But it reminds me of creation and the oneness in the beginning, coupled next with speaking the speaking creation into existence. Like I just see principles lining up with other things we've taught and discussed. That's all.
Thank you. That's what I'm talking about. Other input helps a lot. And you're absolutely right. As we go through these principles, I'm glad you brought that up earlier, Janice, because as we go through these principles, I would ask you to keep that in mind. And then I'm sure that you will be able to see a pattern that develops as to what we've taught over the years, especially in the last couple of years. Any other questions or comments?
I think The vision I see when you talk about unity is I see vessels filling up. Uh, because I thought about this. How do you know when you have unity? How do you know individually what we have strived for has made a difference? You feel it, you experience it. So the striving starts with the individual, and as that vessel fills up, it starts to trickle down to the overflow to the family and then to the community. And each vessel fills up. That's kind of just how I see it. And not to mean that literally, but I'm saying sparks of fire or spiritually. Uh, this kind of takes on the identity of what you're pursuing that in that regard. So uh, that's just how what I saw when you were talking, just seeing these vessels getting larger and as one overflows into the next.
Thank you, sir.
Um, s- I think the unity also speaks to unity within the self, because if your consciousness, if your mindset, if all of that is not unified, then there's no way that you can then move to the next step of defining yourself. And there is no self-determination if you're not already unified within yourself.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. I do. It's no different than when we talk about if you are not balanced within,
Right,
then you can't expect to bring balance to anyone else.
right.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying.
So I think that unity is partly unity of the self
Yes.
too, as well as the
Major
family
part.
community. Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of the reasons that there is such a distinction between civil rights and nationalism. Civil rights, if you think about those words, civil rights, is talking about enjoying the same things that the oppressor enjoys. And that is not what we really want, but we were convinced that that's what we wanted, which happened also during Reconstruction in the 1870s. And everything was burned down, just like the Civil Rights Movement was burned down through these sunset clauses that were put in all the bills and integration or assimilation of the schools. That's what truly, truly destroyed the unity in our communities. However, I see a spark of unity that I've not seen in years. And that spark of unity is we are not in the streets. And no one made a announcement or sent out a memo or brought people together online to determine that we were not going to do this. So that unity also is a sign to us that we are more in tune with the ancestors than we've ever been during our lifetime. Because when we ask ourselves, how is it that we are standing tall and maintaining the position that we have taken not to be the excuse for them to institute martial law. And this is across all lines, whether it be in the Christian church or within the confines of a nationalist movement. None of us have moved off of that spot to be in the streets. Of course, you go see a sprinkling of it. That's always going to be that. But we have not seen us in the streets en masse. That's unification. That's a sign that I see of being unified based upon the direction of the ancestors who has guided us as well to recognize and to speak what we see, which actually strengthens it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So we are right on target, I believe, when we look at these principles, because we can excuse me, we can overlay them with what has been taught and what we continue to teach, as well as the principles of Mayat. Any other questions or comments before we move to the next one?
Hello, everyone. This is Sheldon.
Sheldon.
In addition to what I see with unity, or I guess more so than just see, it's the spiritual connection as well as I just mentioned Audrey in terms of individual, but also collectively, of course, in terms of family, community, race, etc., and understanding that community was a very important aspect of lifestyle and just plain identity in terms of the understanding before more so being exposed to European thought. And it's very important because, as Audrey just mentioned, in terms of unity in the body, unity in the community being very big in terms of support system, and not only a support system, but even the gifts of all these individuals collectively bringing that into the community so the community could actually benefit from them. One's ability and their role in the community and how they build up the community was also extremely important in terms of their value and I'm thinking that self-determined, their purposeful purpose in terms of what they were in the world here to do. Because if also as a community, the community allows the avenue for one to then share their gifts and talents. I mentioned European thought because the reason why I think this is so important to talk about and understand community is because there's more so you're encouraged to be divisive, more accurately division as it relates to European thought in terms of everyone going in their own silos or being separated and having to do things, themselves. And even if that is taught subtly, it is taught and is a thing. So that's why it's very important for unity to be here. And like I said, it's always been a thing as it relates to us as a people. Also, as it relates to community and that connecting, it is the same type of community. I'm at a little loss for words, but it is that same thing that works for meditation. It is the same thing that works for in terms of communication with the ancestors, etc. It is maintaining, importantly, that connection, fostering that relationship, it being something that's just done even thoughtlessly. So yeah, I'm done at the moment. That's all I wanted to say about unity.
Thank you. You see how hard it is to talk about the principles without incorporating all of them? Because all of them are interconnected to that extent. Anyone else before we go to Ujima? Ujima, collective work and responsibility. It speaks to the idea of to build and to maintain our community together, and to make our brothers and sisters' problems our problems, and to solve them together. And that's where we are now, making an effort to solve the issues that our people face in this country, with the understanding that there is no resolution for me if there is no resolution for you. We are responsible to each other, but not for each other in that regard. You are responsible for whether or not you embrace what you see the truth to be. That's up to you. Being responsible to you is making sure that you get a clear picture of who you are, as well as who you have been told you are. And that within itself creates Ujima, the collective work and responsibility. Questions or comments? Input about that?
One of the things that came to mind when I looked at that one was that book we looked at, or we talked about it one time, The Spirit of Intimacy. And in one portion of it, it talks about someone, and this is my word, depressed or having a bad morning or something, and someone in the village recognizes it, and they bring the whole village together to talk to this person to see what the problem is, and if it has to do with a marriage or a family thing, they work it out. They sit there and talk about it and work it out, because it is believed that one person's problem affects the whole village. And I just thought that was interesting. When you talked about that kind of plays into what you're talking about, because that's part of the situation we're talking about here, living in America. If you think about how Kabbalah was divided up into many different nations, and you end up pitting one group of people against another, and that kind of help them to divide themselves, and so this just makes all the sense in the world, that community seems to be the center of all of these. Unity and community.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Yes, Ron, continuing off of that. See, this is also reinforcing that unity in several ways. One of them, it is a seen or known responsibility towards the unity. There's an effort in terms of ensuring the health and the balance of that unity, and in terms of it strengthens the unity as well. And also with the strengthening of that unity, it's twofold. It ties oneself to the unity more, but at the same time, it makes those connections stronger at the same time. And at the same time, additionally, making one more sensitive and more intimate, and therefore connected to the same unity. So both stronger and more sensitive, but not sensitive in a weak way, but sensitive as in being further and tighter connected, closer. All of that just from that responsibility of the and the reinforcement of the importance of the unity.
Yeah.
I'm finished.
Thank you. Sensitivity, we have to see that as being a strength. Why? The reason we are not capable of treating people the way the European mindset treats them without having any recriminations at all. That in itself speaks to our having to embrace who we are and the sensitivity of that. Because without sensitivity, there is no forgiveness. And that word sensitivity carries a heck of a lot more weight than we attribute it to it. Anyone else?
I was just reflecting on the theme of responsibility towards self and each other, which is something that I think Christianity has, I don't know, done away with or something. Like you just kind of you pray and you wait for God to work it all out. But I know we've moved away from that in our teachings, and I think it's interesting here to see how the theme of unity is woven through the different principles that we've spoken about and our responsibilities as creators to each other and to ourselves.
Thank you. Believe you me, Ron Karenga was not a Christian. Matter of fact, he's still living. There was something else that came to mind when you were speaking, Sheldon, and it was in relationship to responsibility in the community, and it also ties in, Janice, to what you were saying. Christianity actually helped to destroy our community unity, and because Christianity looked down on people. If you are a drug dealer or drug addict or bank robber, whatever, Christianity does not forgive you. You're always that drug addict. Christianity does not teach you that the road that this person has traveled may very well be the road that is necessary for that person to see who they are. Am I justifying it? No, I'm just speaking the truth about it. Am I supportive of drug dealing, murder, or whatever? No, I'm not. But the reality of it is this: there are no exceptions to forgiveness. And true forgiveness always sees you as being reborn, having a fresh start. And Christianity does not allow for that. Also, the system joins Christianity in that, because the system makes sure that made sure that there was a dearth of employment in the neighborhoods, and they flooded the neighborhood. They meaning the agents of the government flooded the community with drugs. And what did they do? When they flooded them with drugs, they had to sell them to somebody, and you don't have a job. You figure out how you go get the money to get the drugs. So what have you created? You have created in our communities greed, murder, addictions, lack of hope. When you talk to kids who don't believe that they'll live past 25. That's a lack of hope. And all of this has been created by dividing us. There was a time when we could walk up to people in that 8th Street corridor, especially, and say to them, "You're not going to deal with drugs here. This is not going to happen." And that pretty much ended it. The Vanguard were the primary patrollers, as I spoke about yesterday, but that pretty much ended. And we were able to give them employment through the neighborhood youth programs. Some of the programs ran only during the summer, but others were year round. And that pretty much not mitigated all of the dealing in the communities, but it definitely reduced it to a trickle. And all of that was because we took responsibility for our communities, and we worked together to make sure that we were protective of the communities that we took responsibility for. Ujima. I'm sorry. Are there any other comments about Ujima?
There was one quick comment. I think you gave a really good explanation as you were talking about Christianity disregarding someone and then their responsibility. So when I thought about the drug dealer or the alcoholic or whatever, instead of just discarding them or saying, "Hey, you need to do better," or "You're wrong, you should be different," it's more so of even wondering, because it's that balance and this is part of the community. And I am not only concerned with what it is that, in a sense, you're supposed to be doing or not doing, I'm also concerned in you in general. So I just can't or don't have any desire to kick you out. So it's as if why or how is my brother or sister hooked on addiction or selling drugs? What are the conditions that they're in? And is more so interested in actually not just getting this person to do the right thing or you gone, but actually healing the person in the same way. If you had someone who was sick, nursing that person back to good health. Part of that responsibility is to see the unity, and we say the unity, and we understand that every individual part of the unity is living and thriving in a healthy way in some sense. It's not just interested in doing right. It is actually interested in health and well-being, something much further than just the surface level of Christianity. Basically get down the correct way, or you gone, period. You discard it. You're just bad. You have a red mark or evil stamp on you. I'm finished.
Thank you. Anyone else? When I made a statement about the females, especially across the street to walk with African males in their communities, as opposed to across the street to get away from them, I never noticed that in DC. But the communities were just that. But the first time I noticed that was in New Orleans, with people females walking home after getting off work late at night. And I thought, when I saw that, it was heartwarming to see females cross the street to walk with Black males as opposed to cross to get away from them. And it dawned on me that these females who were walking home were not crossing the street from us, because when I say us, I'm talking about African males in particular, They were not doing that. They would cross the street for protection from Caucasians who harassed them as they walked the streets. That was the first time I noticed it. And I suppose it was the first time I noticed it because in DC, if you didn't go downtown, you didn't see white people. Period. You had to go downtown or east of the park, or west of the park rather. Otherwise, you didn't see them. So that was, I guess, it was no reason for them to have to do that. But now, it's totally different. It's just the opposite. Ujamaa. We talked about Ujamaa when we talked about the continent of Akabalon being the base of economics for the world, the foundation for economics for the world, and us being the tip of the spear when it comes to the spiritual unification and recognition of who we are. This cooperative economics goes, when this was written, it was speaking to only the cooperative economics in America, as opposed to what we were talking about, cooperative economics worldwide. To build and maintain our own store shops and other businesses and to profit from them together. Those things were changed. And during my lifetime, I remember on Good Hope Road, there were hair shops, there were clothing stores, etc. Koreans immigrated to this country, and the government gave them grants and gave them financial support, which allowed them to be able to corner the market on the stores that what are those stores that sell hair and all the other stuff, products, beauty products. I saw them gradually take over the market to the point where they own the production of them now. And that was done purposely to disconnect us from cooperative economics. Why? Because it caused us to strive individually as opposed to as a group, as opposed to unification. And that in itself caused us to look differently at each other when it came to business itself. The bottom line is this. As we go through these principles, yes, they do connect, but they also paint a picture of the depth of thought that Caucasians, that Europeans has given to our demise, and how much time and finance they spend on keeping us in check, on keeping us divided, on creating conditions for us to turn against each other. And in seeing that, and in going through these principles, I believe that we are creating links in a chain, that we are creating a deeper sense of unity than we have experienced since we were segregated. Because you guys, my age or close to my age, you know how close people were in communities during segregation. much closer than they are after integration / assimilation. And economics is one of the strongest things that has separated us, because we have 15 cents more than somebody else, and we see them as being less than we are, until we lose what we have. I look at the Oprahs, the Tyler Perrys. I look at all of these wealthy people and who look like us, and wonder, why is it that they don't create grocery stores with healthy food in our community so we can get rid of the bodegos when they have the means to do it but won't do it. I remember when up on 16th Street, there were primarily white people there and some upper crust black folks. But they would bring from the Safeway, when the meat expired according to the date on it, they would bring it down 14th Street and put it in the Safeway on 14th and Irvin, I think it was. And when we recognized what they were doing, there were some people who went up 16th Street, filled a cart with meat, and left it in a corner. And the protest started, and we kind of sort of forced them to change their practices. But those kinds of things appear to be menial, but they are meaningful. What's the point in voting, having the right to vote, when you can't eat, or you're eating rotten food? What's the point in having the right to vote when you don't have a job? What's the point in all of that? You've been voting for 40 years, and for 40 years, nothing has changed. Our vote is more of a form of resistance than it is a form that's going to foster change for us. And I do encourage that resistance, and I have reasons for that we could talk about later. But anyway, Ujamaa, anyone want to speak to that? Have anything to bring to this, to give us more insight?
Just quickly, I wanted to highlight what it is that you are actually speaking about, those subtle differences with your examples. The idea of building versus just consuming. The idea of, is this a tool that is actually helping the community, or is this a situation where one is just hoarding? And then thinking of George in D.C. in terms of the thought or the spirit of what we're talking about when we're talking about cooperative economics, is the idea of I am because we are. Of course, going back to that, one of the ideas of the principles, the tenets, if you will, of unity. And so that's what is being talked about here in cooperative economics, the spirit and intentions of not just having a business, quote unquote, by us, but the function of that business in the community, literally actually benefiting, helping not an individual, but the community. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I see here on a site that I'm looking at that this principle is at the heart of regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And the success of the land and the ecosystem is also our responsibility, which also, again, brings back unity within ourselves, within our communities, with the land we live on. All of it is together, and we're responsible for all of it.
Absolutely.
And I want to say one last thing that, sorry, you was about to say something? That just came from Denise. It's the
No, you go
idea
ahead.
of everything. Oh, I thought Pastor Rich was about to say something. Everything in what Denise has described and all of this, it is the recognizing and having a respect for it all. So I immediately think about in terms of even fostering and nourishing, being thankful to the earth and those resources. When you're talking about the agriculture as well, all of that building strength of unity and also recognition as well. We talk about respect, we're talking about recognition, and we're talking about holding something in high regard and being grateful and being thankful. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Audrey, were you about to say something?
Yes, I was just going to add that the term build, it just makes me remember, and something I was watching the other day, that we are builders, physically, literally and figuratively, we are builders, because when you think about the earlier days when the country was being built, especially in the South, who built?
We did.
We did. We built the plantation mansions, we built the towns, we built everything basically. So we have to remember that we are a creative force. And we're just now awakening to that again. So we are builders, literally and figuratively.
You're absolutely right. We were talking, Kisha and I think Tamara had gotten here. But anyway, we were talking about the boys, our three grandboys. And Kisha made a statement that Tristan, CJ, and Robert are probably going to end up having to become electricians, plumbers, brick masons, because that's the only way that generation will be able to survive, because robots are being put online to do everything else, and they have to be repaired, and buildings have to be constructed. Now, we have been so conditioned until we frown on that. When the most prosperous time that we have ever experienced is when we were builders. The reason that vocations were taken out of high schools is because there were too many of us becoming self-sufficient. And I remember when I grew up, I never saw a white man laying bricks. Union, South Carolina. The city was wired by a black man who lived in our community, and he taught the white men how to pull wires for the city. And no one ever taught him to do it. He just knew how to do it. And as soon as he taught them, he was no longer of use to them. And I wholeheartedly support these boys becoming skilled laborers as opposed to being in a position that could be shut down or could be dispensed with at any moment. We were always encouraged. Okay, no matter where you go to college or not, you need to do something with your hands. If you can work with your hands, you'll never be hungry. I paid a man to teach Craig how to lay tile because when he wanted to hire him, he didn't have enough business to hire him. And I told him I will pay him by the hour just to get you to let him work with you. And that's why he can lay tile. That's why he can do carpentry, because he worked with me doing carpentry. I'm saying that these are noble professions. I don't care how many PhDs you have, how many master's degrees you have, how many bachelor's degrees you have. I don't care about that. You can't eat them. And the job that you get with them can be dispensed with at any point. But I don't care who you are, you're going to need electricity. And you're going to need a home. You're going to need a plumber. Those kinds of things. So we need to have a mind shift and embrace the reality of the value of all of the vocational skills that we walked away from because we wanted our children to be better than we were and not to labor as we labored. So we are going back to where we were in order for us to be who we are. And by the way, Ron, the symbols you were talking about,
Yes.
those symbols were created by Ron Karenga
Okay.
to represent each one of the principles. When I had opportunity to look at them, they were created by him and his team in order to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Like.
Any other
Hey,
questions?
hey, Pastor,
Mm-hmm.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, you are right, because during my time coming up, I used to help my uncles and stuff do roof on the house. It was wasn't no white people doing roof. There were nothing but black people doing the roof. And you know about Mr. Horse Wood. He Terry Wood's daddy, did concrete. He laid gaskets.
Yeah.
All these black people did stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, white people ain't been in probably no more than 30 years now. They used to work with us to learn.
Yeah.
And when they learned, as progress went on, they started doing it, and it was booming money.
Let me tell you why they started doing it. Because they could get lines of credit at the bank, and we couldn't. Most black folk didn't know what a line of credit was. There was a proliferation of these skill sets after World War II because veterans went to vocation school at Denmark, especially in South Carolina, and they got these skill sets from there and came back to their cities, towns, and developed businesses. The guy who taught brick mason at the high school was a World War II vet, and he learned brick mason in Denmark, South Carolina. Any other input to that one before we get to Neil?
Yeah, that's the Grand Rising family. Just wanted to add another practical example to what you've been talking about in terms of the idea of building and building together. Just very practical. My husband has lots of brothers. Each one does something different. They can each do the same thing, but there's a specialty in each one of them. Or they may do two things, but it epitomizes building a house from the ground up. One is noted for foundational work, for being able to, to use the machinery, dig foundations. As a matter of fact, the machinery, the excavator, is like it's an extension of his own arm. He can make that thing do anything. He can make it do anything. Another can do plumbing. Another builds cabinets. Others do flooring, and they do the work, the tile work, ceramic tile work, and stuff like that. Another is an electrician. And so when we talk about this principle, that's what it's talking about in terms of the community. You didn't have to go outside of the community to do anything. And as a matter of fact, as you said, most of the things that were done within the community, people of European descendancy had to come in and pay for that and get somebody to come out of the community to do it for them. And so that's what all of this is talking about, the self-sufficiency, the being able to do for one another. When somebody got in trouble, hey man, my pump went down. They know who to call in their community. Hey man, I don't have any lights. Something's wrong with my hot water heater. They know who to call in the community, and they don't have to pay exorbitant prices to get things fixed. They depended on each other. And so as you talked about this, it just reminded me of the very essence of these guys' jobs and what they can do that contributes to their community, their families, etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's where we're headed, to that place. Now, all of us may not have 90 brothers who could do all this, different things.
89.
But that's the community most of us grew up in. Anyone else would like to speak to that before we get to Neil? Purpose. Neil is purpose. To make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Barbara just talked about the vocation. They got all the vocations. Neil, our purpose, the bottom line to this one is this: to restore our people to our traditional greatness, a restoration of who we were. And I definitely say who we were, because we were not of the mindset of our traditions. And we are now uncovering our traditional mindset that builds our confidence, because our traditional mindset introduces us to a greatness that we have not experienced in years. Questions, comments, input about this purpose? The development of our community, when we talk about building, yes, it is physical, but it's also emotional. It's also spiritual. We are building a spiritual foundation for our people to grow. Ron?
I just noticed something. I just thought it was interesting that it says collective vocation. Vocation is singular,
Yeah.
collective vocation. I just didn't think that was a coincidence.
No, especially with him. It's not a coincidence. Any questions or
Hey,
input?
Pastor.
Yeah.
Hey, Pastor. In those things that we knew and learned over time, it made you proud of what you did.
Yes.
You
See,
didn't envy or have pressure wouldn't on you now like it was then.
well, Charles, there's one thing that we have not touched so far, and that is no one taught us to do this. No one.
That's what I was telling them.
No one taught
I'm
us.
an all around person.
Yeah, most of us were coming out. In Jamaica, there was an iron smelting, what is it, a quarry in Jamaica. And when the British saw what iron smelting consisted of, they took the machinery to Britain and they took the enslaved people with them to do that, to teach them how to do that. When you look at the ironwork in Charleston, that is the skills that though you are looking at the skills of enslaved people who molded the iron into different patterns that created those iron fences that to this day exist in Charleston, especially not only Charleston, but especially Charleston. Charleston is known for its ironwork, or Charleston is known for the ironwork of the children of Cabelon. Any other comments about Nia?
I'm gonna tell you another one, Ray. Thelma's brother, he's passed now, named Thomas. He was working in Timpkin. The machine kept breaking down, breaking down, breaking down. So the man went to Thomas and asked him, fix this machine to where it won't break down no more. It took him a while. He had to make up a blueprint of it on paper and then make it, and make it, and then put it on the machine. And that machine was still cataloging from the day he left.
Yeah.
And the thing was that he couldn't patent it because he was working on the job through the company. So I guess the boss man,
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry. I'll tell you why he couldn't.
So the boss man was over him. I think he patented it.
He couldn't patent it because he used their material to do it. And there is clause in most applications that people don't read that says that anything that you create or improve in that job is the property of the company. One of my cousins, he was a chemist who worked for DuPont in Detroit, and he created polymers, and his name is on the patent, but they only benefited from it. So that happens everywhere, especially with Milliken. Working for Milliken, that was always on the application. Number 6, Kuumba, creativity. Well, we have talked about this the whole time. To do always as much as we can in the way we can in order to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than we inherited it. Any input on about that or questions? Okay. Imani. It's no coincidence that Imani is named Imani. This was it was purposely done. To believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. In other words, to believe in ourselves, to have confidence in who we are. You can't believe in yourself or have confidence in yourself if you don't know who you are. Everything goes back to knowing who you are. The first 6 deals with unity primarily, and then opening up the door so we can see who we are. And Imani speaks to embracing all of that and trusting all of that, knowing that these principles are the source of our deliverance. Any questions or comments about that?
The thing that strikes me there is when it says the righteousness
Yes.
of our struggle. Isn't that what we've been talking about for the last 5-10 years? The
Yeah.
righteousness of our struggle. That has brought us to the point where we are now and how we think and believe now.
Yeah.
And we know that it is righteous.
Yep.
And that it's going somewhere, it's leading to something. So we have to have, well, for lack of a better word, we have to have faith in that.
Yes.
In the righteousness of our struggle.
Isn't it also ironic that these principles were frowned upon by the church? When the conclusion is that, speaks to rather, our righteousness in our struggle. But they did not. They didn't mention Jesus. They didn't mention praying. They didn't quote any scripture. So they were unacceptable. Plus, Karenga was a Pan-African nationalist, or is rather Pan-African nationalist. That was not acceptable. And in churches today, in 90% of the churches, it's still not acceptable. Ron, would you pick up? I think Malik is leaving. I want you to say something here, okay? For that matter, any of you guys, would you pick up for me for a moment?
Right. Anybody gonna have anything?
Yes, I wanted to talk about that symbol for Imani. that's the one that looks like it's partially the Ankh symbolizing
Yeah.
life, and also the DJ pillar, which symbolizes endurance and stability. And so, when we talk about Imani, meaning steadfast, it's believing with all our hearts, I guess, in the righteousness of what you're doing. It's a steadfast commitment to just doing what's right because it's right to do what's right, to do good because it's right to do good. So it looks like this particular symbol kind of ties directly into the intent of what this principle means.
And it actually ties it all together too, Bart. Ties the rest of them together.
Well, it is number 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ron,
Yes, ma'am.
I also noticed that it says it originates from African spiritual traditions that emphasize trust in ancestral wisdom and faith in collective destiny. And I think that speaks volumes. And I just wanted to point that out as well.
I like that. Yeah.
Say
Thank
that
you.
again, Kathy.
Well, let me go back to it. Hold on once. It says Imani originates from African spiritual traditions that emphasized trust in ancestral wisdom and faith in collective destiny.
Any questions, y'all?
I got one question to what Kathy had said. Is that like, I'm just going to put it out there. Is that like something is broken or something need to be understand how to fix it broken? You talk to the ancestors, or the ancestor talk to you to give you understanding of this that's brokenness that you didn't go to school for, you hadn't been around any teacher to tell you how to understand that brokenness, and you can repair that brokenness yourself without any convenience of other outside source beside the ancestors.
The term that you're using when you say brokenness, Charles, when I look at that word, and I don't think it's an accident that you use that word. When you think of brokenness in this sense, the whole time you were saying that, I was saying the brokenness in the sense of you no longer realize that you are connected. And it was almost as if though a disconnect, not that anything was broken, but it was a covering over of the fact that you didn't realize that you were still spiritually connected, and that all of these, everything that we've studied, we've talked about, these principles are all inside of us. And I think that when we talk about looking to the ancestors, is the other, we now, with the awareness of understanding who we are and recognizing the role of the ancestors in our lives, and how we had covered over the importance of looking to the ancestors for guidance and all of those things. This speaks to that principle of not forgetting the origin of the fact that, and it says it was an African spiritual tradition that you trusted in the ancestral wisdom. I think it's the uncovering of that for us now. We are now understanding that the ancestors never moved away from us. We had moved away from them, and I use this term broken loosely, broken that connection. We were still connected. We just didn't know we were, and that we didn't know to seek the wisdom from the ancestors. And now the eye is open and we're woke, and we understand what all of this means now. and that we were the woke ones that they were speaking of, never wanting to be woke. We didn't know who was supposed to be awakened to anything. Now we realize that was us all along. Now that's why you'll have when we are talking, we sit with the ancestors, we seek the wisdom of the ancestors, we pay honor to the ancestors. We are now recognizing that tradition, and I think when it says we now put that faith, that trust, that belief, that knowing in that we are being led is bigger than just me living my life every day on my own. I think it just speaks volumes to that, and I know I said a lot, but I hope that answered your question. So it is putting an emphasis on understanding there's no spiritual disconnect, that the ancestors have always been guiding us, even when we didn't understand it. But now we know to seek and rely and depend on them. That's why Evelyn is saying honor to the ancestors, recognizing that we honor them by acknowledging them and that we acknowledge their presence in our lives. And as a result of that, we rely on the unicity of being one with as they move and guide us through, if that makes sense, Charles.
It did. It made a heck of a lot of sense. I understand now of that.
It makes a lot of sense, Kathy, because when you were talking, what I was seeing was a loop back to the unity. Unity of us with the ancestors, with the creator, with, within ourselves. So yeah, I just saw a loop back to that concept.
And I like the word loop, Audrey, because that's exactly what it is. We're kind of looping back to understanding as it was from the beginning. Now we're getting it again. We're getting it right this time. And so, yeah, and I appreciate the input, and thank you, Charles, for the question.
I think it also, Charles used the word broken, and I listened to you talk about the tradition of the ancestors. It's not coincidence that Pastor mentioned this doesn't mention anything in the church. This came about at the time when people in this country have always been hurting, but it came at a time when people needed something to touch, something to reach for, and that something that was internal, and that something was not being felt by the church or from the church. So it offers an opportunity anyway to open a door so you can see who you are, and which is something people were not getting. They knew to reach for something spiritual, but they were not getting it from the thing that they thought they should be able to see spirituality from. So the timing of all this and the wording of it is I don't think coincidental at all. And I think broken fits perfectly.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Ron, may I augment that just a little?
Of course.
I think the people were not looking for something, but I believe what happened is we gave them something to reach for.
Okay.
Because I do believe that the ancestors, let's think about this for a moment. The ancestors responded in Africa, right?
Okay.
Yet colonialism remained, imperialism remained. The Creator walked us through the church. The Creator walked us through the front door of the church and out of the back door. So the Creator walked us straight through the church. And when we got out of the back door, there was simply open space there. And in the beginning, we were teaching based upon the church. But that empty space remained until the Creator woke something up in us. And we realized something, that was not open space at all. That was spiritual essence. that we couldn't see with our eyes, but we saw with our eye. And we were awakened in a way that Europeans recognized, even before we did. And they began talking about woke generation, woke people.
Mhm.
The enslaver talked about the woke people. That's who they recognized that we were awakened before we did. But when we began to embrace the true nature of our ancestors being with us, we were the last piece to the puzzle. The continent has always interacted with ancestors, but Islam and Christianity was overshadowing that. Waiting for someone to stand in the gap. And the gap was filled when we recognized that we are the tip of the spear to bring order to the earth consciousness and to bring balance as well to people internally. So I see that as once our eye opened to see the ancestors and the kind of love they expressed for us. And we were being guided by the ancestor. And as a result of our being guided by the ancestors, we gave them something, a lifeline to reach for. And I do not believe for a moment that Obama or Donald Trump would have been elected as president if we had not embarked on this journey, not knowing where it was carrying us. And Abram left the land of Ur in search of a city that was unknown to him. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And what happened?
And a God, right?
Yes, and a God. And when Abram left Ur, he was searching for himself.
Yeah.
And when Ham was added to his name, it was not him. When he found God, he found himself. And that's where we were on this journey, leaving our home because our father was making idols. Masculinity was making idols like a communion table, a cross, you see?
Mm-hmm.
And when we found ourselves, what we realized is that the masculinity was making an idol God because it didn't know any better. It wanted to control everything. However, when Sarah, the feminine aspect, recognized who it was, it is at that point that everything started to become clear of who we are. That tent of Sarah, where the light was always present, meaning that the light is always present in femininity, but masculinity can't see the light without femininity. As long as there was unconscious disrespect for femininity. It was our father building images, building idols. But the moment we began to understand how spiritual we are, how divine we are, that is when femininity presented itself to us in no uncertain terms. Does that make sense?
It does.
So,
Thank you.
Yes.
and Charles, that's what I was talking about when I said that. I think it was Charles who raised that question. But anyway, whoever it was, that's what I was talking about when I was talking about we have to translate the scriptures from the English. So otherwise, we don't have understanding of it. We are still in our Father's house as opposed to being in the cosmic mother's womb. I'm done.
I think that was Denise asked that question.
Okay,
Janice, rather.
Janice.
Did I?
Is it you, Janice?
I think it was Valerie. I think it was
Oh, okay.
at the
Whoever it
beginning.
was.
He was
I hope
asking about what was written in the red.
Yeah,
There we
okay.
go.
Yeah, you're right. I just hope that's clearer than what it was in before.
So can I share one last thought on Imani that I'm reading
Yeah.
that goes back to the word broken that Charles started with, referencing his question?
Uh-huh.
It says African societies maintained oral histories spanning centuries, trusting that the wisdom passed down through generations would guide future ones. This faith sustains communities through hardships and celebrated triumphs, creating an unbroken chain connecting past, present, and future. So the fact that Charles used from our brokenness, that when I read further down to what it was saying about Imani, this faith is part of an unbroken chain that's always been there that we didn't always see. So like I told him, I don't think it was an accident that he used the word from our brokenness, are we now seeking the ancestors. That kind of summarized it for me, and I just wanted to share that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments about that? I would like to make a suggestion.
Okay.
A lot has been said today. We covered a lot. So I would, if you would write your questions or at the very least remember them, and we pick up tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock because, as I said, we have been discussing this for a while and a lot has been said. So I want to give you opportunity to digest it. Okay?
Okay.
Agreed. I think we just scratched the surface of some of what we talked about too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, everyone. Look forward to tomorrow.
So do I. And
Yeah,
you
Great
guys,
good discussions.
great
Yeah.
rest.
Yes, it was. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy your day, everybody.
Bye. Have a good week.
Oh, yeah.